Alright, so for today I'm going to be going over the Grotto. In this video I'll cover how to of course beat the Grotto if you're incredibly new to the game, how to speedrun the Grotto if you of course want to get into speedrunning the dungeons, and I will also show you how to beat the Grotto on power level 140 by yourself. And also feel free to skip to any part of the video if you want to just learn how to beat the Grotto on power level 140, just skip to that part of the video. It doesn't bother me at all. But with all of that being said, let's get straight on into the loadouts that you might want to use for this dungeon. And for my first loadout that I have here, this is basically a template loadout. So basically we're pretty much just running Blackbeard's Stash, but Blackbeard's Stash is very strong for dungeons. You're going to be able to get coconuts, which of course will keep you alive in case you accidentally set off a trap. You also got the cannonball grenades too, which are very helpful in case you get swarmed by a bunch of husks, and they can also damage monoliths, believe it or not. And then you have the peg legs, and the peg legs are incredibly strong for dungeons because, for one, weapon durability doesn't exist in dungeons, so once you get a peg leg, you have it basically for the rest of your dungeons run. They do huge damage to husks as well as bosses, and they can shred down monoliths very easily too. And that's what makes Blackbeard's Stash incredibly strong for dungeons. You could basically run any hero you want in those 2 extra support slots down at the bottom, and just use any hero you want in the game as your lead commander. If you wanted to, you could run Assassin Sarah, so those peg legs do huge extra damage. Or you could run like something like Carbine, or a Commando Spitfire, so you could have like a hybrid either Lefty and Righty build, or a hybrid minigun build with Blackbeard's Stash. Or you could just run Fleetfoot Ken in the lead, and then just have whoever else you want in your support squads. Blackbeard's Stash really does carry. Those peg legs are very strong. Just as long as you get that super stash loot from your team perk, you should be fine for your entire dungeons run if you are just playing casually. And I do recommend using Blackbeard's Stash if you are someone that's really new to the game and you do have it, available for you. It will just make any heroes you run just infinitely better. But that's just me ranting about Blackbeard's Stash. Let's get into some of the actual loadouts that I have. Here we have a minigun build, and this is a very spammable minigun build. We're running Commando Spitfire in the lead with Happy Holidays, so we can get that cooldown for our minigun down really low. We have Fleetfoot Ken for extra movement speed. We also have Ted, Diecast Jonesy, and Sergeant Jonesy just to help with the overall damage, the duration, and just the DPS of the minigun in general. We also have Mainstage Gwen. Believe it or not, but the urns that you destroy in every one of the dungeons is actually made of metal. So when you destroy an urn in any one of the dungeons, you will actually get subwafers. And the reason why we're running subwafers is it's actually pretty important. The bosses that you get in the Grotto is a bunch of water blasters, so it takes a lot of time to of course gun all of them down. But if you are having lots of trouble with the bosses, I do actually recommend running Diecast Jonesy in the lead. You do have to of course learn the placements of all of the monoliths, but if you are struggling with the bosses and you know where all of the monoliths are, I do actually suggest running him in the lead as your commander, believe it or not. Now let's get into the last loadout I have for this dungeon. And here we have a Carbine loadout. I would honestly argue that Carbine is easily the best hero to run for the Grotto. No questions asked. And the reason why is pretty simple. All of the monoliths for all of the different rooms can spawn very close to one another, so when you pop that Lefty and Righty, you can actually get free monoliths down for pretty much every single floor of the Grotto. And also the piercing and the bouncing effect that the ability has is very important because it allows you to hit all 4 bosses at once with one ability. And as for the other perks I have Happy Holidays to reduce my ability cooldown, I have Noir as well as Raven to help with the duration and damage of my ability, and I have Fleetfoot Ken, Internal Wanderer, as well as Havoc to help out with my movement speed so I could go through the dungeon a lot faster. And those are the loadouts I would recommend for the Grotto, so let's jump straight on into the walkthrough of the Grotto. Alright, so this is going to be the walkthrough part of the Grotto. Feel free again to skip to any part of the video that you want to. I just want to of course cover a walkthrough for of course all of the newer players that might be, new to the game, and might not know the layout of the grotto. So once you get into the grotto, there's actually a lot of urns that you could find and destroy right on spawn. And also throughout the grotto there's actually a lot of urns that you can easily get, as long as you're of course paying attention to your surroundings. So once we of course get into this room, you want to take a right to progress through the dungeon, but there can be a monolith right here with again a bunch of urns that you could destroy. Something also interesting with the grotto is that there's actually little eggplant bombs like that. If you're in radius of one of those plants when it blows up, it will actually do a huge amount of damage to you. And just to show you how dangerous these eggplants are, that one eggplant alone took all of my shield as well as around 30% of my health. And I'm playing of course this dungeon in a power level 88 zone with my power level being 123. And that arrow wall right there only did around 30% of my shield. So if you're playing this dungeon on a power level 140, those plants will one-shot you. And even if I am playing of course still in this dungeon on power level 88, they can basically two-hit you. So you definitely want to be careful about those eggplants. But this part of the first floor of the grotto is actually a very interesting part of the grotto, because believe it or not, but there's actually a lot of monolith spawns here. There's one of course down there, over there, there's one or two over there, and then there was one like over there where some of those urns were at, and then one all the way down there. So if you actually are using Lefty and Righty, or a minigun, you can actually pop your ability right here, and basically get all three, if not more, monoliths, basically in this little area right here. So this is a pretty good area to of course destroy all of those monoliths and get your husk key right away. So you just have to focus on the shadow key. At the bottom of these stairs, there's a trap, so make sure you watch out for that. There's also another trap right there, just beside that monolith, so make sure you hug that little corner so you can dodge it. And this massive room right here can actually have a lot of different shadow key locations. So over here, you can see where that twister is. If you go down that little cave there, you can actually find a shadow key there, if it does spawn over there. There's also some finds over here, you can break through those and the shadow key could be behind there. There's a waterfall right down there, and if you go into that little cave where the water is coming from, you can actually get a shadow key, if it does spawn over there. And then if you come down to this ruin area, you can mantle up here, and then the shadow key could just be right here. And then once you of course get the shadow key, all you have to do is of course that's where you come from when you enter the room. The door is just right here. So make sure you of course build around the door, and then you can open it safely. So once we of course leave this little ruin area, you want to of course go straight left. If you go of course straight, it doesn't really lead anywhere, so you just want to of course go to the left and try to of course hug this wall right here to of course progress through the dungeon. There could be a monolith that spawns there, one there, and then of course one all the way over there. This could be a good spot to of course use your minigun or Lefty and Righty ability, if you do of course get lucky and have all three monoliths spawn there. Right here is also a really good spot to get all of your monoliths. There can be, of course, one right here. There could be one, of course, right down there. And then there could be also one back there where that little plant is. So that's also another really good spot to get all 3 of your monoliths, if you didn't get all of them at the start. Also, this part of the dungeon, I would suggest to watch out, because this is a huge pit. If you just run straight into a pit, you will actually die, but you have to go down into the pit if you want to progress through the grotto. So I do suggest being a bit careful. Right there, to the left of that monolith, a shadow key could spawn there, so keep that in mind. A shadow key could also spawn higher up on one of those ledges that I was just on earlier. And this is, of course, the intended route that you want to take. So there's a few floor traps, a few ceiling traps, lots of eggplants, a monolith or 2. And basically, if the shadow key spawns there, you want to, of course, just run through all of that and grab it as soon as possible. And then make sure when you, or if you do come from that left route, make sure you don't go down here, because this is actually a shortcut, believe it or not. And we're basically at the bottom of the pit again. You can see those little brick structures. And you can actually come down here and basically break those vines and have a nice little safe, you know, kind of walk through the grotto down here. There's lots of urns. The shadow key can never spawn down here, so keep that in mind. But it's a nice little safe and chill route to the door that doesn't have any traps. No eggplants, no monoliths. So if you don't need monoliths and you already got the shadow key, I do suggest taking that route. It's actually a lot quicker too.
Sent our imaginations sailing, visions of sea voyages, and salty sea captains sailing under the black flag of the Jolly Roger. Yet even in that moment, we couldn't shake the feeling that someone, something, was annoyed we were still alive. Didn't we know we were overstaying our welcome? We continued on into the unknown.
Once you get to this big open area of the first part of the 3rd floor, you can actually get multiple monoliths just right off the bat. So you can get 2 monoliths right there, and then you can get a 3rd monolith there. But also further down that corridor, you can actually get a 4th monolith if you do actually get one that spawns there. So if you do pop your Lefty and Righty ability or your minigun ability, you can actually get, of course, 3 monoliths just right at the start and not have to worry about the husk key at all for the rest of the floor. You can also get a chest too in the inside of both of these ships. So you can get, of course, some free gold and some free weapons too. And I do also recommend grabbing some weapons here and there throughout the grotto. If you are newer to, of course, dungeons in general, there's actually 4 bosses, believe it or not, when you get up to the boss room in the grotto. You'll have to fight and kill 4 different blasters that all have water as their element. So I do suggest keeping an eye out for any weapons that are, of course, nature damage dealers, or of course any rocket launchers. Right here I'm also getting rid of some monoliths, but that's not because of the husk key, that's because I just want to clear out the space for this hidden door. So this hidden door is very interesting because the shadow key can, believe it or not, spawn behind that hidden door. And in case that happens to you, I want to show you the locations where the key for that hidden door can spawn. So one of the locations can be, of course, this little crate right here, and it actually is that little crate right there to open that door. That's one of the free spawn locations for that door. If we come all the way over here, there's a coffin right there. And you can also grab another chest right here for some extra weapons. And if we come back here, the last hidden door key can be that little crate with the net on it right here. And those are all free locations where the hidden door key can spawn, if you of course have to open that door for the shadow key. And I do suggest of course grabbing the chest here anyways. Why not? It's some free loot and you could get a good weapon for the boss. Another location for the shadow key can be of course down there. Should be pretty easy to see it because of the little key icon if you are coming down here. And then watch out when you're grabbing this shadow key because there can be a trap right there where I was just standing. There's also some rocks blocking the path. You can either use your pickaxe or use the cannon to destroy those rocks right there, but you can actually just mantle on top of that one and just pretty much bypass that. And you could just of course walk straight to the door over here. There's also a revive statue over here too, so if you do die, of course, before you do get to this sort of point in the dungeon, you can actually automatically respawn here if you are playing solo. So keep that in mind. You could use that as a speedrunning technique too if you really wanted to. And now finally we're in the boss arena. You can actually do a very easy technique, believe it or not, to get rid of all 4 bosses. So what we're going to want to do is, well, first I'm just going to grab some urns, because why not? You might as well get that urn challenge done. But what we're actually going to want to do is we're going to mantle up on top of this hut right here. We're going to place a wall, preferably in the middle of the hut, with a ramp leading upwards. And we're going to want to build a little box in this little corner. Make sure there's a wall attached to that. Build some ceilings, some more walls. And make sure to detach that ramp and this floor here. And we pretty much just wait here. The bosses actually will teleport and warp up to this box area. So what you could do here is you could throw down a slow field, you could throw down some traps. And eventually all 4 of the bosses can spawn up here. And you can basically just pretty much kill all of them without having to deal with any of the little mobs. Like the gunslingers, the pitchers, the husklings trying to of course kill you. You could basically just pretty much fight all of the bosses just in this little box here. Very easily. And that's how you beat the Grotto. So let's talk about how you might want to speedrun the Grotto now. So for this round of the Grotto, I'm using my carbine loadout. And carbine is of course very good for the Grotto, because like I mentioned earlier, you can actually destroy all 3 monoliths for every single floor, just as long as you of course know where all of the monoliths for each of the floors do spawn in. So as long as you time that ability just right, and you know where all of the monoliths are, you don't really have to worry about the long uptime of your Lefty and Righty at all. And it's really good for shredding the 4 bosses too on the final floor of the Grotto.
That's 1 key down. Find the next. I decided to go alone, leaving my friends behind. Bad idea. We knew we'd have to search for more of the coins. Piranhas. That summer, we'd set off on a journey that would change us forever, transforming us from a band of awkward goofballs into a pile of skeletons. Then we go to title, You Get Swarmed by Monsters, soundtrack swells! Ha-ha! This is box office gold! Someone take notes.
So right here, this is where you're going to want to use your Lefty and Righty ability. You can get a wall of monoliths right here very easily. And right here I actually get all 3 of my monoliths. So I don't have to worry about the husk key at all. I could just basically speedrun through the dungeon, grab the shadow key, and then basically be done with the first floor of the Grotto pretty much instantly.
Found a secret door temple. And monsters. So many monsters. Definitely a lot of that. We continued our descent.
And right here, right at the start of the second floor, I got some pretty good RNG, and all 3 of the monoliths actually spawned right here, right at the start. So all I need to do is pop my Lefty and Righty ability, and once again, I have all of the monoliths. I got the husk key, and once again, I just need to search for that shadow key, and I'm pretty much done with the second floor of this dungeon.
Set to feast on interlopers such as us, and drag all they encounter down to a watery grave.
Also, a speed running technique that you can use is you could just build floors like that and destroy the little finds that spawn in, the little pathways or that block the little doorways. And you could just, not have to destroy them manually like that.
Key down, find the next key. The dungeon beckons you ever deeper. Our imaginations sailing, visions of sea voyages, and salty sea captains sailing under the black flag of the Jolly Roger. Yet, even in that moment, we couldn't shake the...
And once again, on the final floor before the boss, we have all 3 monoliths just spawning right beside each other. So once again, we could just pop our Lefty and Righty ability, get that husk key instantly, and all we have to do is search for the shadow key, and we're done with this floor. Another thing that I suggest you doing is if you're in this part of the dungeon, you can actually bounce off of those lily pads and actually, bypass this this room a little bit faster, which can help save a bit of time.
The dungeon beckons you ever deeper.
Also, another thing too is if you see a twister like that right there, you actually will need to build something to protect you when you're opening the door. And if you don't see that twister, you actually don't need to build anything behind you while you're opening the door. The little rocks in the that are blocking the pathway will actually protect you for long enough, just as long as you go straight for the door. But right here, we're going to do the same technique. We're going to, of course, just pretty much build all the way up here. And something that you can do, believe it or not, is you can actually shoot the bosses. And sometimes when the bosses teleport up to you, they actually despawn and then respawn in, so they can actually count towards your mini-boss progress, believe it or not. So you can actually get all 5 mini-bosses for your repeatable quest in a single game, very consistently. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, so I do suggest you shooting all 4 of the bosses, just in case. And right here we're just going to wait for all 4 of the bosses to of course teleport up here. And when they do, we could just throw down our hover turrets and just basically pretty much just annihilate them with our ability. They die incredibly quickly when you of course use your carbine ability. And that's pretty much the grotto done. That's how you will want to of course speedrun it. It's not a very optimal speedrun, and I get it. But hopefully this gives you a general idea on how to speedrun the grotto. So now let's talk about how you might want to tackle the grotto on power level 140. Alright, so we're doing this on power level 140, and this is the loadout I'm running. I'm just running Blakebeard's Stash with Carbine. I actually kind of like that combo. You have your Carbine ability for when you need it, and when you don't have it, you have your Peglegs and your Cannonball Grenades. And I actually suggest using this loadout, because if you might not know where all of the monoliths spawn in and you accidentally, mistime your ability, you still have of course your Peglegs to help deal with those monoliths, in case you of course do need that extra firepower. And also another thing I want to talk about with the power level 140 grotto, and this logic of course works for all of the other dungeons, Please do not rush through the dungeon. Let's be real, there's no reason to ever grind any dungeon on power level 140. Unless you're just playing it for fun, there's no reason and there's no benefit for you to rush when you're playing any of the dungeons on power level 140. And that's actually the main reason and way people lose on power level 140 dungeons of any kind. They'll rush through the dungeon and then die by a random ceiling trap or arrow wall, or they'll step onto a snare trap and then get swarmed and die within a few seconds. Or with the Grotto, you'll accidentally run into an eggplant and instantly die. So please do not speedrun through the dungeon. There's no reason for you to actually ever speedrun 140. The only reason why you would want to do the power level 140 dungeon for any of them is basically for the banners, or if you just want a fun little challenge.
Suddenly, we knew the horrifying inspired stories of our childhood were true. Monsters lurked deep within the grotto. So, perk, surge. 4 legendary beasts sent a feast on interlopers such as us, and drag all they encounter down to a watery grave. Monsters. So many monsters. We continued on to the unknown. And salty sea captains sailing under the black flag of the Jolly Roger. Yet, even in that moment, we couldn't shake the feeling that something rather, was annoyed we were still alive. Didn't we know we were staying welcome? We continued on into the unknown.
And just like that, we're back in the boss arena. And of course, like always, we're going to do the same technique again. We're just going to, of course, build a wall there with a ramp. And I'm actually going to sit here and actually damage all of the bosses here. And I want to prove to you that you can, of course, just damage the bosses before they teleport. And then when they do teleport, they have a chance to, of course, count towards your Miss Monster challenge. And as you can see right there on the far left, I actually got progress from my mini boss challenge. That didn't really happen last game, and kind of a shame that it didn't. But here we go, you know, like it counted, it went up, so good enough for me. But yeah, we're pretty much going to let all of the bosses teleport up here. You cannot kill all of them with one carbine ability, sadly. They are actually very, very tanky. So I do suggest you building and ending some walls like that so you can use as cover. They are blasters after all. They can shoot at you, but they can't damage structures. So as long as you're hiding behind something, you should be safe from them. But with one carbine ability, I know if you do it in a 1x1 area, it is a lot more damaging, but they're still incredibly tanky. So I do, of course, suggest using a coconut before you, of course, do pop your carbine ability, just to get a little bit of extra damage. I also do suggest, of course, expanding the box, just so you can hide and camp from the blasters, so you can either do some free damage to them without you getting hurt, and, it of course, can buy you time to get your carbine ability back.
Chances of survival drop rapidly. There was one Grotto monster left. Sink or swim.
And that was pretty much the 140 Grotto. Sadly, the boss did take a little bit longer than what I wanted to. Bit of a shame that he teleported out, but nothing I could really do there. But that's pretty much how you beat the Grotto, you know, in general. That is how you speedrun the Grotto, and that is how you beat the Grotto on power level 140, all by yourself. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Not only does it help out the channel, but it's a great way to stay up to date on whatever I do post. If there's some part of the video that you enjoyed, or you want to, of course, leave a comment, well, I guess leave a comment then. I do enjoy and love reading and replying to everyone's comments, so why not leave a comment if you did enjoy something about the video. And also, share this video. Why not? especially with anyone that's struggling with the Grotto. This is basically a video walking you through how to beat the Grotto, how to speedrun it, and how to beat it all by yourself on power level 140. So why not share this video with someone? But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you have yourselves an amazing day, and I will see you in the next one. So see ya!